The public knows the broad strokes of the Jeffrey Epstein story: a staggeringly wealthy man, a private island, and a long documented history of exploiting underage girls in isolated luxury. Framing him as a solitary criminal satisfies our need for a clear villain, but it creates a dangerously small picture. An isolated predator does not command the attention of royalty, presidents, and the world's leading scientists. Look at his visible resume. He had no major corporate titles, no verifiable blockbuster financial track record, and a completely murky source of wealth. Yet his social reality included deep, persistent access to the upper echelons of global power. The math of his life simply does not add up. In 2008, he pleaded guilty to state charges of soliciting prostitution from a minor. In most circumstances, a conviction of this nature instantly severs a person from high society. But he kept taking meetings. He kept appearing at elite dinners and prestigious conferences. How does someone with a documented record of severe abuse maintain permission to walk freely through the world's most heavily guarded and scrutinized institutions? He functioned as a highly integrated piece of a wider system, a structure built to protect itself in plain sight. This is a network graph showing isolated clusters of power: finance, tech, and academia. In network theory, a node links entirely separate groups. Epstein positioned himself directly in the middle, facilitating access between these worlds. He hosted private dinners introducing prominent scientists to Wall Street billionaires and tech founders. By sitting at that specific intersection, he extracted a highly valuable currency: borrowed legitimacy. When a person is continuously photographed at Harvard, or funding research at MIT, or traveling with heads of state, the prestige of those environments scrubs their image clean. The institutions unwittingly perform intellectual laundering for the individual. This creates a secondary, highly polished public identity. To the people in these rooms, he appears as a curious intellectual and a necessary connector. That illusion actively competes with the documented reality of his victims. When allegations inevitably surface, this manufactured prestige creates massive friction. Gatekeepers, journalists, and university investigators look at his guest list and hesitate. They doubt the accusers because the accused seems far too validated by society to be guilty of such crimes. Associating with the elite was not a vanity project. It was functional, heavily reinforced armor that made him appear too important to investigate. When exposure finally threatens a connected individual, the focus immediately shifts to how the surrounding institutions react. There are rarely secret boardrooms handing down direct orders to cover things up. Instead, the protection relies on learned hesitation. People inside high-status networks share a reflex to protect the room they are in. When a scandal threatens to implicate everyone who took a meeting, flew on a plane, or accepted a donation, the default response is caution. They initiate long internal reviews and delay public action to avoid mutual destruction. The accused sits safely behind a wall of high-priced lawyers, private investigators, and crisis management teams. The accusers step forward with almost nothing. Young, vulnerable women are forced to carry the entire burden of proof. They bring their trauma up against a coordinated, perfectly silent institutional wall that has unlimited resources to wait them out. A network's fear of its own embarrassment functions as a shadow currency. It buys the predator the exact thing he needs to survive: time and long-term immunity. Survivors faced a literal daily wall of disbelief. For them, the system was a concrete obstacle standing between their testimony and the truth. Elite culture demanded that young women continually prove their own humanity against a man society had already decided was too connected to cast out. Eventually, the central figure was physically removed from the equation. He was arrested, jailed, and died in a federal holding cell. Eliminating him stopped the immediate physical threat he posed. It did absolutely nothing to dismantle the machinery that allowed him to operate for decades. This animated diagram shows exactly what happens to the network. The central node is deleted, but the remaining outer clusters instantly rewire. The mechanisms of access, the mutual compromise, and the institutional cowardice remain completely intact. The architecture of elite power proved itself capable of absorbing a monster. These systems remain perfectly designed to accommodate anyone, provided they remain useful to the network.